Going live, and it says I am live. I don't have enough lights. Hold on a second. Sorry for the interruptions. There we go. And let's adjust the angle. It's been a couple of weeks since this was being done. Let's make sure the video screen is visible. Let's make sure it's really visible. How about that? Top of my head's cut off. Well, then let's angle it down a little bit. Hello. Namaste. Om Shanti. Agape. All these different greetings we can say in mystical and spiritual terms instead of just hello. I've learned the hard way that while YouTube may show only 1 or 2 viewers, there's 10 or 15. So I will wait a moment. We're going to get started so you can see my little note there. Get ready to cry till you laugh. This is a very interesting and tragic story in many ways, but it's also filled with supernatural phenomena. And it's time for me to document these events. I've begun writing the book, and I've done some of this documentation of these series of events of my death experience, which is extraordinary, as they all are. But you stack them up side by side, mine has features of all the others and so many more. Why, I don't know. I guess I'm special. So it's time to document this thing, and it's going to be a little rough for me because this is very emotional, probably. I don't really know. I've spoken on it a couple of times as a public presenter. I regularly do, but I've only done a couple of presentations on this particular subject exclusively. And honestly, it was very difficult to do, and I didn't think I was quite ready, which is unusual for me because I'm always ready. So let's have some fun. Let's cry till you laugh with some of this phenomena that I think you're going to get a lot out of. In my time of dying, triumph over tragedy. As many people start to know about me, is that every little detail, the title, has a story behind it. It is a great title for something for this subject, in my time of dying, triumph over tragedy. But there's particular things you're going to find through this story that pertain just to that. And I love this image of the skull with the flowers. And I mean, it's just such a wondrous experience, full of beauty and terror and tragedy and triumph. Triumph over tragedy, right? So this is becoming a book. You could call this a blog to book, or a video or a vlog to book. I'm going to document this tale on video and also convert it into book. So it begins with chapter 0, Dead or Alive. So instead of just an introduction, it's chapter 0. We begin with nothing. So let's jump right in. On June 19th, in 2013, I was sitting in my office. I had a full schedule of clients as a private practice counselor in this beautiful office overlooking a park, sitting up a little bit high with these surrounded by windows. And I loved that place. It was very special, very blessed to be so successful with something that I had started from nothing and never thought I would ever really be reputable for. It's something I wanted to do. And June 19, 2013, I have a full schedule as always. And suddenly 3 clients called and texted to reschedule. It happens, but 3 in a row, that never happened before. And suddenly I've got several hours to kill. Nothing backed up to do because I thought I was seeing clients. So I decided that I was going to go up the street and get a physical, which I'm a little bit overdue for. Some research for my new book coming out required some health risks, and that was Project Addiction, whole nother story. And so my publisher and manager had insisted for legal purposes also to get a checkup to be able to qualify me anyway. So 3 clients rescheduled, and I saw this opportunity to go get a physical up the street. So I went downstairs to my parking garage and I got on my bike. And that's a very unusual bike, if you can see that. It's an MP3 500. Two wheels in the front and leans like a motorcycle. Very unusual. And for the first time in 7 years in that particular office, I turned right when I left out of the driveway instead of left. And I'd never, ever done that before, and I didn't need to today. I will never know why. I don't know why I drew this conclusion. For the first time ever in 7 years in that location, coming and going all the time, for the first time ever, I turned right instead of left. And I don't know why. I don't know what my reasoning was. About less than a half mile away, I came to an intersection, and it was about to make a left turn onto the major roadway to go up to the doctor's. And you can see there I had a green arrow. I was the only one in the left turn line. Green arrow just for me. As I went through the intersection, eased out to make a left turn very slowly, an oncoming driver in a full-size SUV hit me in the face. And I was killed instantly, dead on the street, full of blood, completely dead, not alive, not unconscious, dead. On the corner, there's a tire store and a Jack in the Box. At the tire store was a pastor helping his daughter get tires for her car. That's the first strange anomaly, you could say. What is a pastor doing at that particular moment? And on the other corner, on the Jack in the Box, were two paramedics in the drive-through line getting lunch. Not just in the drive-through line, but in the front of the drive-through line. Had they been in the back, I wouldn't be here. The pastor ran over to the scene, and everyone was yelling at him, "Don't touch him, don't touch him. Paramedics are on their way." Because those guys are right there, and I'm dead. He said, "Screw it," and pulled me from underneath this SUV that had killed me. Blood coming from my eyes, my nose, my mouth. I will occasionally get emotional because even I never know when it's going to kind of come up like this, but he pulled me from underneath this car that hit me maybe going 5 miles an hour, hardly nothing. And I was doing maybe 3, and started reading my last rites. I spoke with him. Good man. He started reading me my last rites because I was dead. He was trying to send me to heaven. Paramedics rush over and rush him out of the way. And they begin to resuscitate because I'm dead. I can tell you that while this is going on, while I wasn't viewing it, my soul and my mind are out of there. We'll get into that soon. So the paramedics are trying to revive me, and I'm in a stage 3 Glasgow coma. They know what that is. I never did. That is synonymous with death. There's no deeper stage of coma. Literally, when you're in a stage 3 Glasgow coma, paramedics and doctors shrug their shoulders and say, "Well, it's up to God now. There's nothing we can do." Stage 3 Glasgow coma, and I had a DAI, a diffuse axonal brain injury, and brain hemorrhaging, and death. Those are the 4 main factors of this moment in time when I turned right instead of left for the first time in 7 years. This is me as they brought me into the hospital, and I'm in a coma, and you can see the abrasions on my face and the machinery on me to keep me alive and breathing. I'm not breathing. The machine's doing it for me. A DAI, diffuse axonal injury, is the worst TBI, traumatic brain injury. We all see those in the news now. This is the worst version of a TBI known to science. It's when the white and gray layers of your brain shift and separate completely. Billions of neurons completely separated. Each neuron that you have in your brain has a responsibility, like move your finger, grasp things, see, whatever it may be. Each neuron has a responsibility, or a set of them. And when they shift and all separate, they don't know what they're connected to. They don't know what they do. That is what a diffuse axonal injury is. Hemorrhaging because they had to cut my helmet off because of the swelling. and hemorrhaging because I was bleeding everywhere from the brain too. So this is the status of me at this moment. I'm in a stage 3 Glasgow coma. I got a DAI, the worst brain injury known to science, and a brain hemorrhaging, and I'm dead when they first found me. They brought my body back to life. Now, we now have established there was a pastor on one corner. Well, let's back up. I turned right instead of left for the first time in 7 years. After 3 clients rescheduled, so I suddenly had this window of time that put me out on the street at this moment. We've got these 4 conditions, and I'm dead. A paramedic on one corner, pastor on the other. Starting to become undeniable that this is a series and set of supernatural experiences and circumstances. I don't think anybody can deny this. If it was 1 or 2 things, okay. But when we add all these up, just wait, there's more. As I was in my office, dressed for my clients, which is usually sleeves and a shirt and slacks as a counselor, and I got to get on my bike and ride up the street, and I thought I'll change my clothes. I must have put on some jeans, and I put on a t-shirt. I would typically keep a change of clothes in my office in case I had to go out into the regular world, or especially on my bike, that I want to wear my office clothes with. And that day, I grabbed what I had and I put it on. And this is the t-shirt that I happened to bring, that I put on, that I was killed in when I was on my bike. It's the Museum of Death, a place in Hollywood that is a museum of death. Room after room of serial murderers and strange phenomena and all kinds of just bizarre, dark stuff. But it's a fun place, and if you got the darkness for it. So this, coincidentally, is the shirt that I put on that day. I've got dozens and dozens of t-shirts from phenomenal places, from CERN in Switzerland, the physics laboratory. I've got a collection of things, and that's when I chose that day. Again, it becomes undeniable, the supernatural circumstances of all the things that I could be wearing that day. Now that shirt is a replacement, because I went back to the Museum of Death well after, months later, and I'll tell you why, months and months later, and told them the story. They gave me lifetime free admission for the story and asked me if I would speak and present the story because they were so blown away. Because I went there because the shirt meant a lot to me. Because the shirt I was wearing, this is actually it. Let me see if I can get this. Sorry. Oh, I knew I'd make a mess of this. This is the actual shirt that I was wearing that day that the paramedics cut off of me. When I went back to the museum, so this is the one that they cut off of me. They cut my helmet off and they cut this shirt off of me to pull me from the wreck because I was hemorrhaging everywhere. So the Museum of Death replaced the shirt. That's kind of why I went there. As I said, I need a new shirt, and here's what happened. Here's why I need a new one. And they didn't have any in stock. And so they ended up finding some, and they gave me this new one. And I plan on stitching the old one back together like Frankenstein with scars on it and being able to wear it again. And by the way, I do ride my bike with that very shirt on occasionally. Not that I'm tempting fate. So there it is. There's the new shirt, and there's the shirt that I was wearing. So we added up. 3 clients called to reschedule. I see an opportunity to go run an errand. For the first time in 7 years, I turn right instead of left. I'm easing out to the intersection. A guy hits me in the face with a full-size SUV. No, not a mini truck. No, not a car. No. I got to go all the way. We're barely moving at all, and yet the angle and the impact and all these things add up to me getting a DAI, brain injury, stage 3 Glasgow coma, brain hemorrhaging, and I'm dead. And there's a pastor on the corner and a paramedic on the other corner. again, it becomes more and more undeniable. Now, in many ways, I'm used to this. I've had supernatural experiences and events and circumstances throughout my life. And yet, no matter how much you get used to it, air quotes there, I never take them for granted. I'm always impressed and in awe of the creativity that the cosmos and the divine can engineer circumstance to make it so undeniably supernatural. For me, more than others, I don't know why. I don't think I'm special, but while this is certainly one of the more supernatural set of circumstances throughout my life, it ain't the only one. And those who know me and have been tuning in for these presentations, I share some tidbits here and there, and I've had a very supernatural life. I refer to it as the crown of thorns and a string of pearls. String of pearls and a crown of thorns of my life experiences. String of pearls because they're beauty and they're gorgeous and they're undeniably supernatural, which gives absolute evidence, which I don't need, of God and divinity. I don't need that proof. I already know. And the crown of thorns because these events set me aside and apart from everyone else. It makes it hard to relate. I can relate to others because I've had their experiences of having a home and a business and a family and raising a child and all those kind of things. And there's a few people that have also died and come back. There's a few people that have had supernatural experiences like Kundalini and drug addictions. But I don't meet people that have all these combined. And that kind of sets me apart. So the crown of thorns part, my supernatural life experiences, is that sets me apart. It makes it hard for other people to relate to me. And they get a little intimidated by that. Anyway, let's move on with the experience. What was I going through? Well, I'm in a coma, so I'm not going through nothing. I'm unconscious. I don't know anything. I'm completely unaware. But upon impact, my soul and my mind, which are attached, left my body. I sense it as I saw it as an opportunity. I'm out of here. No, I didn't see the bird's eye view of the paramedics and the accident scene and all that. I was gone. That's it. I'm out. I didn't want anything to do with it. I think I saw it as an opportunity to, you know what? I'm cool. I get to check out. I don't have to be on Earth anymore. I was waiting to go. And as great as my life was and is, and extraordinary, life on Earth is pretty dull and monotonous, and so I'm ready to go. So my soul and my mind, which are attached, have left my body, and I go to the other side. What the Tibetan Buddhists call the bardo, the in-between state between life and death, a suspended place that's timeless and spaceless, dimensionless. And while I'm there, I have no body. There is no relativity of time and space. I'm just aware. I have consciousness. What am I aware of? Not much. I'm not sorrowful. I'm not happy. I'm not at peace. Well, I am at peace because I have no real attachments or concerns about anything. I'm not happy or sad. I just am. I like to now say that the best word to describe what I was feeling while I was on the other side is pending. I was in a state of pending. I wasn't here nor there. There was no sense of time, again, or space or identity. It wasn't I, it wasn't a you, there wasn't any of these kind of things. It was just this nebulous, amorphous, dimensionless, timeless existence. It wasn't bad, it wasn't good. I'd say, if anything, it had to be more good because it was peace. I didn't feel anything really. And I had two awarenesses. two very distinct awarenesses. And one of them was a music. And everything was, and I had a presence of orange. This ethereal chanting. And there was this presence of orange. And she was beauty and peace and comfort. And this music that just filled the atmosphere around me. That orange presence was something, again, comforting and peaceful and loving and with personality. God, angel, whatever you want to call it, I did not know. I did not know anything. I had no capacity to know or to think or to really to feel. I just was, and I was just in a pending state with this orange presence and this gorgeous music that I could not identify or know what it was. I didn't even know what music was. And then it was time. 9 days later, and those of you who have attended my numerology workshop and some of the other mystical things would know the significance of this. So we've got 9 days later is when I awoke from my coma. Now, wait a moment. 9 days later is extremely significant in mystical circles. 9. And when I woke up from my coma, when my soul and my mind returned to my body to animate me, it was 9 days later from the accident, which I said was June 19th. And now it was June 28th, which is my birthday. No matter how many times I tell the story, as I tell it, I'm so choked up, not just because it's painful, which it was, because I'm just so impressed by the beauty and the care of the divine realm to take such attention to craft this in such a meticulous and beautiful and undeniable way. So let's add them up now. 3 clients call to reschedule, and I turn right instead of left for the first time ever to run an errand because I suddenly have this time to kill. 7 years in that office, first time ever turning right instead of left. And a half mile away, I get a green arrow just for me. I'm the only person in the left turn lane as I ease out on my bike. And as I ease out from my left turn arrow, another driver comes, hits me in the face in an oncoming SUV. We're both doing maybe 3-4 miles an hour. And yet I'm killed instantly. We all hear about people with accidents, especially on motorcycles. I mean, I've heard some horrendous stuff, and I'm like, wait a minute. You were doing 90 in a canyon, and you flew off a cliff, and you're fine. And I was doing 3 miles an hour making a left turn, and a guy that went from a dead stop that 30 yards later hit me in the face, and I'm dead and broken and destroyed. So we've got those circumstances. On one corner is the pastor that pulled me from the wreck and read me my last rites because I was dead. Beautiful man. So glad that I got to speak with him a couple of years ago. On the other corner is the paramedics at the front of the drive-through line getting lunch. If they wanted tacos instead of burgers that day, I wouldn't be here. Had they been in the back of that line, I wouldn't be here. They saw the scene, were there in seconds, reviving my body. So we had all these things up, and then when they did, I'm in a stage 3 Glasgow coma, synonymous with death. Emergency technicians don't do anything when you're in stage 3. They just, well, let's wait and see. Nothing they can do. Put you on machines, keep your heart and your breath going, but that's it. There's nothing they can do to sustain you. the DIA brain injury, the worst one known to science, that 90% of the people with a DIA injury never come back from. 90% never wake up. And I woke up on my birthday, 9 days later. 9 is significant in numerology because it completes a cycle. It's the beginning and ending of things. And I woke up on my birthday. This is why I began with this with get ready to cry till you laugh, because if this was fiction in a movie or a book, I'd be going, this is cool, but this is way too much to be bordering on reality. And yet it's all documented and true. So I woke up from this coma on my birthday. I did not know who I was. So I like this image because there's Jesus raising Lazarus from the dead. And I had this awareness, again, of this orange presence, which I'll be able to tell you what that is soon. And that's loving. It was loving and comforting and peace and very personal, very intimate. It wasn't just some abstract thing. It was very personal and intimate, very close, like a mother, like a lover. And there was that music that was so ethereal and so profound, that was just enveloping me, that I was immersed in. It was soft and comfortable. But I also remembered when I woke up that I had this other music going on. Give it a second. This is what I was hearing. Very heavy, very dark. Now, that is Led Zeppelin's In My Time of Dying. It's a song it's an old gospel song that has no real author. It was written and performed by, I can't remember the artist's name. I think I got it coming up on another slide. In the 1920s or 30s. And it's a song a man is singing because he's saying to Jesus, this is my dying day. This is my dying bed. He's dying in that moment. In my time of dying. Bob Dylan's covered it. Led Zeppelin covered it. And it's most the rockingest, heaviest, hardcore Led Zeppelin song of all time. So I have this one ethereal music with the orange presence. And there was this other music that when I came out of my coma, I just had this awareness because I couldn't think. Remember, I woke up on my birthday. Here's me in the hospital. Now notice the picture I showed you earlier, I had scars and lacerations all over my face. So let's back up a moment. When my family, my son and the woman I was involved with, came to the hospital, they were met at the hospital by 2 doctors and a priest. That's not a good sign. When you're met by a priest at the hospital, you pretty much know what they're there to do. Bad news. They were told, if he ever wakes up, which he won't, but if he does, they're trying to ease them into this realization that dad, that partner, is gone. If he ever wakes up, he will never be able to take care of himself. He's got such severe brain trauma. He'll be bedridden for life. And the pictures that you saw with the scars on my face, they said, even with intense and many constructive surgeries, he will be scarred like Frankenstein for life. So brace yourselves. This picture right there is me 9 days later when I woke up from my coma on my birthday. 9 days later. Do you see scars and stuff all over my face or even a bruise? Barely. Miracle number one, I suppose. I came out of my coma and I had totally clear skin and not a scar on my face. There is my son and my somewhat daughter-in-law. They were there singing me happy birthday as I woke up from my coma. And I was kind of like bobbing my head, like I knew what was going on. I had no idea I didn't know what a birthday was, didn't know who I was, didn't know who they were, didn't know what a hospital was. I had no awareness or no knowledge of anything. I could not speak, not because I couldn't have the vocal cords or the muscles to do so. That was part of the problem because I was so damaged I could not coordinate anything. But I didn't know how to speak. And I didn't say I couldn't speak. I mean, I did not know how. I was like an infant. I did not know what a hospital was, what my name was, didn't know what people were. I was like an infant baby that was just being. And they said that this is going to be permanent. And I have no idea what they're saying because I can't make sense of anything. Even though I'm awake now, I have no ability or capacity to think or feel. I'm not scared. I'm not anything. I'm like an infant that just doesn't cry. Slowly, I start to have some level of a bit of awareness, some perception, and I'm faking it. I'd act like, because I didn't want to scare anybody. I didn't know who they were, but they seemed like nice people, whatever people were. And so I didn't want to scare anybody. So I would act as best I could, like I thought I should act. I would say things like, I'm fine. I was gentle and soft and quiet, which I'm not before or now. I'm a rather bold personality. And so I had to learn how to walk from scratch, how to stand, how to go to the toilet, how to hold a fork or spoon, how to swallow and drink water. Pretty much precisely the way that you teach an infant how to walk and how to crawl and how to do all those things. That's what I had to do. That's me in the hospital at some point trying to learn how to walk. And I can tell you that I had no idea what was going on. And I could feel the brain injury. It wasn't something that I was aware of. I'm saying you could feel it. When you hear about people with TBIs losing their minds, it's not just challenging. You don't have the capacity to think, to feel, to organize, to perceive. It's like you've been thrust into this body as an alien being that you can't control. You can't understand it. And so I'm faking it the best I can. And it wasn't because I was proud. I honestly had this natural empathy for who these beings, these people were around me that seemed to be very upset that I was in such a bad way. And I felt worse for them. I felt like I was responsible for their pain. I didn't want them to worry. So I would try to act like a normal person, what I saw normal people doing. Walking, talking, whatever, if I could, which I couldn't. So again, the DAA brain injury, we add all these things up, as I've already done with you a couple times now, from the client's rescheduling, turning left, to the paramedic, the drive-through, to the patient on the other corner, to the DAA injury, to the classical coma, to the hospital being so close, coincidentally from where I was hit, that I was able to get into ICU. Any further, if it would happen at my house just a little bit further, went off my house that morning, I wouldn't be here again. So many things add up that I wouldn't be here. The pastor on the corner, and again, the DAA brain injury, the complete severing of your brain, of your gray and white layers of your brain. Every brain neuron you have, which you have billions of, has a responsibility. And when they're disconnected, they can't remember what to do. It's not just they can't remember, they don't know how. I didn't forget who I was. I didn't forget how to walk. I did not know how. I didn't forget how to speak. I did not know how. It's like I never knew it. And yet I had this awareness. I was on the other side partially. I wasn't fully in my body. I know as a spiritualist and as a mystic who studied the Vedas, the Upanishads, and all the scriptures, I know that your soul must be in your body to animate your body and be alive. But I can tell you for a fact from my own experience that the mind again is attached to the soul, and they go together. And the soul doesn't just appear inside the body, it kind of trickles in. And the mind comes with it. Not brain, but mind. And so you probably can't remember back when you were 3 years old, 2 years old, 1 year old. But we have no awareness because our mind has not settled, excuse me, with our soul into this identity. It just left whatever incarnation it was and it just appeared. And so it hasn't settled and stabilized yet. So I'm in a similar condition. I'm just like a newborn. I have not settled within this body. On the same day that I was born the first time, June 28th, let's not forget that. Now, it's pretty jarring because without the ability to walk and talk and all that, that's bad enough. Being in a hospital, having the only awareness as I'm learning about the world, that basically excuse my language, I'm fucked. I mean, they're speaking around me like I'm not even there, and I kind of not. They're telling my family, like, he's never going to come out of it. He's never going to be able to take care of himself. He's never going to look anywhere remotely like a human being with all those scars on his face. As you can see, I'm living proof that they were completely wrong about almost everything. Not wrong. They were right. Miracles and work has defied those things. But let's get back to where we are actually in the current state of things. You can start to appreciate this on a conceptual level. But some things, unless you experience them, they're ineffable. You can't know them. I mean, I'm a man. I don't know anything about giving birth. I don't know anything about being pregnant. You can describe it to me all you want, but the bottom line is I can't know it. You can give me all kinds of metaphors, all kinds of details, and I can say, oh, yeah, I get it. No, I don't. And no matter what I describe, all I can do is put into words that try to basically say it's an ineffable experience. It's so overwhelmingly confusing, so overwhelmingly detached to supernatural that it is indescribable. And I have no basis or capacity to relate to or connect with the world that I'm living in. I'm this soul and I'm this mind, but I have no identity and I don't need it because your soul has no identity. Your soul is your soul. It's pure, it's divine, and it's essential. It is your essence. Your identity is who you are, who you incarnate as. Your name, your body, your looks, your hair, your fingernails, blah, blah, blah. That's how your identity is. And your identity is the sum total I wrote that wrong. The identity is the sum total of you have been in of every experience you have been in every moment leading to this one. Sorry about that typo. Pretty significant. Your identity, my identity, your identity, all of us, our identity, who we are, is the sum total of every experience we've had up to this moment, right now. That's who we are. If you have no experience, no perception, no awareness, no memory, then you have no identity. Because who you are, not just how you define yourself, the only way you can relate to who you are is the sum total of your experiences up to this very moment. All the ones that have led up to now, the eternal present. No past, no identity. Again, this is not a subjective personal theory. I'm telling you as an objective fact that if it happens to anybody, if you have no past and no memory and I don't mean just memory of experiences. Again, remember that it wasn't just that I couldn't walk because I was broken or that I forgot. The ability to walk and talk and function was completely deleted. Boop, deleted. It wasn't buried. It wasn't forgotten. It wasn't somewhere there. It was deleted. It's a very different phenomenon. Thankfully, you don't know what you don't know. So I didn't know, but I would see people walk and talk and do these things. I'm like, well, I apparently seem to be one of these human being things, so I should be able to do that. And when I first time I got up from the hospital bed, I fell out on my face because I couldn't walk. I didn't know how. I just looked at it and thought, well, I'm one of them. I'm one of these people things. So again, those who are just joining, I'm sorry about the typo there. Your identity is the sum total of every experience you have been in every moment leading to this one. No past, no identity. So I'm in this hospital from this coma, from these supernatural, which, by the way, I had no idea of these supernatural. I didn't know about the paramedics on the corner and the pastor. I didn't know any of that stuff. Again, I didn't know who I was. So I found all this out later. I'm lying there thinking, I need to make a graceful exit. I'm not in any pain, not emotionally, not mentally, not physically. I don't have any real feelings or sensations in my body. I have one emotional sensation: fear. And it's not because of the circumstances only. I don't know who I am. I don't know what I am. I don't know who I'm supposed to be or how I'm going to be. These doctors and people are telling me that I'm never going to be able to do anything beyond what I'm doing right then. That it's already a miracle that I'm even conscious, let alone being able to think or do anything. They made it very clear. So we've gone through some of the material phenomena, some of the physical, some of the material phenomena of this experience, the accident, the medical issues, the coma, these kind of circumstances. And again, the way they come together, it seems deliberately engineered and creatively designed to be undeniably supernatural. And I've yet to meet anyone that heard the first part of the story that isn't scratching their head saying that's undeniable. And again, it's all proven. I mean, I have it all documented from the police reports and the hospital reports and all the dates and all the things I'm sharing with you. It's all there. That's how I found out about it. I didn't know about it because I didn't remember. I found out by the way that you're finding out about it, like a story being told to me. So I found out who I was later on. So the next category of this is the supernatural. No, not the next category. So let's review real quick. Supernatural circumstances. I turned right instead of left. Pastor Dan and the paramedics on the corner. Pastor Dan is the man that read my last rites, pulled me from the wreck when everybody's yelling to leave me alone. And by the way, the reason he was at that tire store on the other corner was because his daughter needed tire change on her car. And at the last minute, she had this appointment. She couldn't figure out how to do it. She was afraid they were going to take advantage of her. And so he stopped everything that he was doing to go over there and meet her and help her. So once again, we see these myriad of circumstances that puts everyone in the right place at the right time, like the paramedics wanting burgers instead of tacos that day, being in the front of the line instead of the back. I was in a stage 3 Glasgow coma synonymous with death and had a DAI brain trauma, diffuse axonal injury, the worst one known to science. Again, the statistics, I don't repeat this a lot, so I don't always remember it exact, but pretty sure I got it. Stuff that I try to forget, that a DAI brain injury, diffuse axonal injury, 90% of the people that have it never recover. When I say never recover, I'm not saying that they're dead. I'm saying they're vegetative, cannot function, cannot tend to their own needs in any way. 90% of the other 10, hold on to your hat, of the other 10%, within 4 years, they're institutionalized or dead by suicide. so far, I am one of, if not the only person on the planet that has come through a DAI and a stage 3. I think the last person that came out of a stage 3 glaucoma was like 1983. There was one person. So the downside is that obviously the upside is what a miracle. Like I came through all this stuff that nobody's ever done before. The downside is that no one can teach me or show me how. The doctors are saying, when I'm saying like, what do I do? I mean, I'm so confused. I'm terrified. And they say, we don't know because we've never done this before. You're the only ones ever done it. Awoke 9 days later on my birthday. No memory, no intent, no identity. And again, I think memory is a very loose term. I didn't just lose my memory. All the data of being a human being was deleted. It's argumentative, I suppose, because here I am, we'll go into how my memory has come back, which is not like an amnesia kind of episode. We'll go into that another time. This is episode 1 of this strange phenomena. And remember that when I was on the other side, I was in a pending state. No time, no space, no body. And I was completely comfortable and peaceful. I wasn't seeing dead loved ones or angels or anything like that. And I asked about it. Not asked, but like telepathically. You can communicate with the presence that's there on the other side, the Bardo in the death realm. And in my own way, I asked, so where's the passed on loved ones and the pets that you missed and loved and the angels and all these kind of things? And the answer was, do you know what's happening to you? My answer was, yes, I do. Do you need those things? We give those things to people that need to be comforted because they cannot handle, they can't process the magnitude of this type of experience. And so these are somewhat illusion that we provide to people to help them cope through this transitional experience, because otherwise they just snap and lose their crap. It's too traumatic. So while I was there on that other side, in this state of pending, in this comfortable dark place, I wouldn't say dark, I wouldn't say light, but kind of dark, but comforting, soft environment, there was this music of the spheres with that orange presence. Hi, Leah. Thank you. Music of the spheres. And there was that music that I played for you earlier that was just beautiful and wondrous and just surrounded me. I was immersed. It was everywhere. And that orange presence, that presence of orange that was feminine and divine and loving and comforting and very, very personal and intimate. It was not just a general presence. It was such a close association. Very personal and intimate. So this is a little bit of a summary of some of the things we've gone over. And now we're going to shift gears a little bit to review in a different way. Dying is not easy. You know, since my NDE, near-death experience, which I prefer, and I think I've earned the right to say it was a death experience, not a near-death experience, because I did die. And most people that have NDEs, they do. I've talked to dozens of other NDEers, and I've gone to the convention from IONS in Seattle when I was there, because I happened to be in Seattle when the convention came to town, another supernatural kind of circumstance. And I've read dozens of books already on the NDE experience. There's a new Netflix program on it, and honestly, I'm like, I gave it a try. The first one was really good. The second episode, the third one, they're really kind of going off in different directions that, for me personally, I take it kind of personal that it's something that's a little difficult to digest. it's not that they're wrong about what they're presenting. It's that they're getting off track and they're not presenting this significance of this in the core that it should be. Anyway, that's one of those. I'm not here to criticize Netflix on that. So dying is not easy. Yes, it has some beautiful and wondrous things, but dying is not easy. It's a lot like when you come back, it's like waking up at the end of the DMV line and having to have all your paperwork and you don't having it with you. Imagine waking up every day like Groundhog Day at the DMV line. You don't know why you're there. You don't know why it's starting over from scratch every time in the same place. Brain injury is not easy. Death is hard enough, but again, the NDEers that I have associated with and talked to and read about and met with at conferences, most of them are okay after their very brief episode with death. I had a massive brain trauma with no identity and no memory. I could not walk. I could not talk, any of those kind of things. Overwhelmed. I didn't have the capacity to think. My brain was so injured. Spinal fusion is not easy. After I came out of the hospital, and another part of the story later on down the line, within I think it was 6-7 months, I had some pain and I had to hang upside down 14 hours as a surgeon, removed a disc from my spine and learn how to walk again. Reincarnation is not easy. It seems smooth and seamless, but again, imagine having the awareness. When you're born, you have to learn how to walk and talk and do all these mechanical things. Unless, listen, thank God we're babies when we have to originally do this, because otherwise none of us would have the patience for it. It's so tedious. It's such a pain in the ass. None of us would have the patience for it. The only way that we would ever get through it is if we're so innocent and so limited in our thinking and feeling capacity that we'd never get here, because as adults, we'd be like, screw this, I'm done. I don't want to deal with it. Again, it's like waking up at the DMV. It's hard to start all over again. Reincarnation is hard because every time you do it, you got to start over from scratch. Learn how to talk, learn how to walk, learn how to read. I mean, all this stuff that you had to struggle for in this lifetime, do it again and again and again. So reincarnation is not easy either. It's not, the NDE, the death experience, is not magical, extraordinary, or inspiring. It is for you when you hear about it from someone else, but when you're going through it, trust me, it's not magical or extraordinary or inspiring. It's tragic and terrifying. So yes, I mean, all these people that I would talk to and hear some of the story, they'd be moved to tears. As I said when I welcomed you, get ready to cry till you laugh. Moving them to tears. And I'm thinking like, well, this is great for them, but I mean, I don't want my pain exploited. And I do so because, as I've done with all of my other presentations, all of my other work, there's only one thing worse than suffering. Suffering for no reason. We're all going to suffer. That's the human condition. But we can choose to suffer for a reason. Make some use out of it, not just for ourselves and our own growth, which I do, but also to enlighten and share evidence and proof of supernatural phenomena to others. And again, when we add up all these circumstances I've already gone over, the day of the death, waking up on my birthday, all these undeniable set of events that make it undeniable. I don't care. You bring me your most hardcore atheist and they'll hear these and see the proof of these things and go, okay, that's causing me some doubt. It becomes undeniable and mind-bending. So it is a magical, extraordinary, and inspiring experience, but mostly for other people. Now, don't get me wrong. Most NDEers do have a large epiphany awakening after their death experience, because they went from living somewhat of a superficial or material or shallow life to suddenly having absolute proof that death is no ending, that there's a spiritual phenomena to our existence. And so while that's inspiring and wonderful and extraordinary for them, I hate to sound like a cynic and like an ungrateful person, but I didn't need any of that. I was already in tune with all those things. So I was always wondering, like, well, so I know why you died, because you needed to like believe in God, but why me? I was already there. I know what you needed. You need to be shook up. I didn't need any proof of these things. So again, part of what I'm driving at is that these events are not easy. brain trauma coupled with having no memory and identity and having a death experience and going to the other side, being completely alone with this experience, none of this is easy. You not only don't want to go through it, you're certainly not willing to. Any way that you can stop it, you would. Now, I was told and I believed and I was convinced of my own cognition that my circumstance was permanent. There was no reason to even hope or believe that it was ever going to get any better. There was no evidence of that whatsoever, quite the opposite. Your palms by supernatural proof to expand scope of prayer. How do you explain it being in your palm prior to expand? Let me get back to that. So the terror, first there's two parts of that. The fear and the terror that I'm experiencing. Number one is I got brain trauma. And so my brain is so damaged that it's releasing endorphins and glutamate and adrenaline on levels that are putting me chemically in a constant state of fear and panic. Now, I still had enough spirit and mind to know that I sensed that it wasn't really me, but just because you know it isn't you doesn't make it feel any less. Illusion or not, the bottom line is I felt like I was in madness and I was in a constant state of terror and panic. Again, when you combine that with actual panic and fear and terror of not knowing who you are or who the people are around you that are their lives suddenly went from normal to over as well, because a significant person in their life was suddenly impaired forever. You combine these things together, and I had a right to be in a panic when the hospital staff offered me some antidepressants before I could even walk yet. Because they asked me how I was feeling. I'm like terrified, sad, sorrowful, normal stuff. And they offered me antidepressant medication. And I said, is that going to make me forget that I was hit in the face by a truck and killed? Because I think I'm having a pretty normal reaction. I think being depressed is healthy. The confusion in the death experience, and this is well chronicled and documented in across the board. There are very common traits in the NDE experience for almost all NDEers. And then there's a handful that are unique to me, and each one also has their own unique ones. But generally, almost all of them, there's several things that are pretty universal to the NDE experience. It typically takes 7 years to stabilize in your identity. The divorce rate, the career ending rate, even with people with NDEs that are physically fine, like I wasn't, but people that are physically fine and can return to work and do all that kind of stuff, the divorce rate, the ends of their careers and their lives itself, the circumstances of it are so rearranged so much because it takes 7 years for your mind and your soul to stabilize within your body. And when I first read that, I thought, well, I'll beat that. I've learned enough about me that, I typically am ahead of the curve. I'm pretty magical, so I got to beat that. And I thought I did several times. I'm in about 7.5 years now. And I can tell you that as much as I continue to feel that I had arrived and stabilized, a couple months would go by and I'd be like, okay, I thought I was then, but I wasn't, because now I am. Now it's consistent. I know who I am and who I was. I have full identity. I have full synchronicity between my soul and my mind. I have no blurs in my identity. I'll get back to one of these questions. How do you explain it being in your palms via supernatural proof to expand your scope of practice? I'm not quite sure what you mean. Wait, here we go. This is the first time you said it. I told you years ago you would have that near-death experience when I read your palm. Oh, yes, I do remember that, Leah. Yes, I do. Leah, by the way, is a supernatural phenomenon herself. She is so gifted. Yes, I remember we were both a lot younger back then with the palm reading, but how do I explain it being in your palms by supernatural proof to expand your scope of practice? I'm not sure what you mean by explain being in the palms by supernatural proof to expand. I'm not sure what you mean, Leah. There's no doubt that these events, if any of you attended the Karmic and Sanskar workshops that I did, I explained that karma is a predestined set of fates, that your karma, the events of your life, the big ones, are already predetermined. Time and circumstances, magnitude. So the details can change to somewhat, but the magnitude and the brand of an experience is already fatefully, karmically slated. You can't escape that. So in other words, even though I stayed in bed that day, I would have been struck by lightning. The magnitude of that experience of the trauma was already slated to happen. So that was in the palm, in my palm reading or a tarot or anything else. That's already etched there. That can be read into. Now, as far as expand your scope of practice, I'm not sure what that part means, Leah. Proof to expand your scope of practice. I'm not sure what that means. Now, even though karma and sanskars are fate and destiny and somewhat unavoidable, this is where, as I've said, that I have a lifetime of supernatural experiences and events. Crown of thorns, string of pearls. God has, you have an infinite amount of karmas from past lives. Infinite amount. So truly, God can rearrange them any way that she wants. It is before you take this birth, predecided and predetermined, it's all laid out, all the events. And yet we still have free will. So the big events, life, death, the tragic ones, the beneficial ones, winning the lottery, that kind of thing, those things are already slated in time. And yet you still have free will. And also, while that's already predetermined, let's face it, God is omniscient, omnipresent, and all-powerful. And if God wants to rearrange them, she can. Does she? Well, the Vedas and the scriptures tell us no, that they don't, that they're set. I can't say for sure. To give you more material to teach, yes. As I've often struggled with, why did this happen to me? What was the point? I already believed in God. I had no doubts whatsoever. I didn't have faith in afterlife and spirituality. I have awareness of it. So as you wrestle with the why did this happen to me, which you can't help but do, I'm thinking like, what am I supposed to do with it? As I mentioned to you, there's only one thing worse than suffering for no reason. So how can we convert our suffering to something that's beneficial, not just for us? Forget us. I don't care about me. How can we convert our suffering and our triumphs to something that can benefit humanity and those around us? All of my life experiences, supernatural and otherwise, I've always converted to be able to teach and provide evidence in firsthand experience to illuminate the supernatural, the spiritual, the beyond, so that people can have reasonable, somewhat factual evidence of what they suspect is there, that people struggle with. And yes, I do feel that I'm like the poster child for it, and I'm kind of resentful because I guess I do a good job, but I don't really want to be used as the example of these things anymore. No more brain injuries for me. I've had my fill. So yes, whether it was my extraordinary drug addiction experiences I pioneered my way through on my own, that I now use as a career counselor to teach and guide people through into the other side of it without any of the conventional methods. And I'm exceptional at it. I have a huge success rate, and people admire this, and I've saved a lot of lives, and I'm grateful for it. All of these events, become teaching material, but they also become your own spiritual material. As I am in my meditations daily, several times a day, several hours a day, I am so easily brought to tears with the gratitude, not just of the miracle of surviving and being somehow restored, which was never supposed to happen, but also the creativity that God has shown for some reason that I don't deserve, the creativity that I've been shown of how these things were all constructed and engineered in such a way that make it so undeniable. And I don't know why for me, because I don't need any of that. I already believe in no. But I am so grateful. My spiritual path is one of surrender and devotion, complete devotion with love of the divinity. That's it. Complete surrender of your will, of your mind, of your spirit, of your soul, of your heart to the divinity, to she, to he. And that is what GR, God realization, is about. To become spiritually enlightened is complete surrender. And the way you do that ultimately is to totally remove you from the equation. With complete gratitude, love, and awe of the divine, you connect on a soulful, spiritual, intimate level. So in my daily meditations, anywhere from 1 to 4 hours a day, I'm so easily brought to tears because my mind can't help but, as I think random things, it goes to a domino effect. It just lands on different things, and I end up being so blown away, impressed, and loved by the creativity that the God power has gone through to engineer these circumstances that I don't deserve. And it brings me to tears. And those tears are tears of longing and love. And that is devotion. That is the definition of surrender. And so I'm grateful that for me, yes, hopefully my story inspires and teaches and illuminates for others. And it also illuminates, puts a big giant white light on what I already knew. That God is love, that God is real, and God is attainable. That you can join, unionize, become unioned with the divine power. So if it has any meaning or purpose to it, I'd have to say, for me personally, it's that. And also, I feel an obligation, as I have with all of the work that I presented here on Spiritual Triangle. An obligation, a loving obligation, an honor to be able to share this life of extraordinary experiences and knowledge that I've worked my butt off to gain. With others, so they don't have to do the same work that I did. So you don't have to die for the experience. You can learn from mine. Trust me, it's a lot easier. I mean, would you rather hear from another person what time's a good time to go to the DMV or whatever it is you got to do? What's a good time to go with the shorter lines and what the quicker way is? We want to go ahead and get that inside track. And so whether it's the drug addictions that I went through, whether it's the death experience that I've gone through, whether it's the heartaches that I've gone through, starting a business, raising a child on my own, changing laws in California for custody rules, all these things. I do what I got to do. I do what's right. In addition to that, if the opportunity is there, I want to be able to share that so that I can save other people the trouble and the pain that I had to go through to get it. I've consumed volumes of books throughout my life to gain the spiritual and mystical knowledge that I present to everyone. I've spent my life consuming these materials, authentic, not just books, but I've gone to India and I've traveled to remote places to gain the materials and the experience to coincide with it. And I don't want you or anyone to have to go through what I did to get that. I have it, so why not share it? Get you to the front of the line, so to speak. I had to get in the back of the line and work my way up. And so what if I can just say, hey, I want you to come either right in front of me, right beside me, right behind me. I'll give you a free pass with what I know, what I've experienced. And so that's the conversion of how we can convert these fated, destined experiences, all of your suffering, all of your triumphs. What can you do to use those to inspire and guide and teach others? Because you can. And I encourage you to do so. So in my time of dying, the title of this again is because while I was in the Bardo, one of the two sounds that I'd heard was this music that ends up being Led Zeppelin's version of In My Time of Dying. If you like rock, listen to it. This is the hardest, heaviest, most complicated and intense song they ever produced. And it is gorgeous. And it means so much. And I've always loved it. Triumph over tragedy. This is chapter 0. Death, dead and alive. Not dead or alive, but dead and alive. This is the introduction to it, to some extent. The objective is to go ahead and document this experience, kind of like a vlog, a video blog. I'm going to share the experience in real time, some of it that I've already gone through and some of it that I'm experiencing along the way. So instead of scripting it and writing it, because I was an award-winning writer, I like to write. But I think that the message I'm kind of receiving is that I want to experiment with vlogging this and presenting this as a video series and seeing people can ask questions and we can interact with it and we can benefit from it and learn as we grow. So I'm going to present this just as a story, casually, informal, not all well crafted and engineered and wrote down and edited. No, I'm going to put together some slides and I'm going to present it to you. This is episode 1. Episode 2 coming up is actually chapter 1, death and resurrection. So this was alive and dead. Next one is death and resurrection. I come home from the hospital, not knowing who I am or what to do. Didn't even know what a house was. I mean, I kind of know, but when I went to my house, like none of it looked familiar. The physical therapies that I was involved with to learn how to walk and talk. The hybrid healing as I combined over the years the Western allopathic and even some homeopathic remedies and treatments and processes to overcome this, combined with my Eastern of Ayurvedics. I'm not an Ayurvedic practitioner, but I've been a student of it for years. And when it started to come back, I'm not successful as a medical miracle exclusively because of Eastern paths. Neither is it exclusively Western paths. It's the combination that I did. And I'm not saying to you or anyone who participates in this, do what I did and you'll get over this too. I'm going to teach you through example on how to hybridize and combine your own elements that would work for you, because everyone is different. Same thing I do with my addiction treatments. I don't tell somebody what to do. I give them all the tools so they can construct them and put them together for themselves and design their own custom-made plan to triumph over their tragedies. We're going to go into the Bardo, what the experience was like when I was there. I have very, very lucid awareness of being there. It's very clear what I got while I was there. You could say I was downloaded a lot of information about life and death, about existence itself, undeniable. Life after life, we're going to talk about reincarnation. And again, what I was provided in knowledge and wisdom while I was on the other side. Again, the best way to put it, actually, a guy from the NDE in New Orleans, I mean, not New Orleans, in Seattle, he's the one that said to me when I was sharing, he said, so basically you weren't just telepathic, it was kind of like you like uploaded all this information. Yes, it was just there. How reincarnation works, why, what you do about it. Again, the Bardo, how it functioned, how why it's different for everybody else, or every person, or mildly different. And who am I? How I learned to be who I am. And again, I learned it from scratch. Prior to this tragic event, I was providing 2 editorials a month to a magazine. I was in papers. I was in interviews. I had a pretty strong presence in Los Angeles as a counselor and a specialist, public speaker, self-improvement professional, etc. And I learned about who I am the way that somebody else might, by reading articles. We can study anybody that has a public presence by looking at them up online. But we don't really know them. We know of them. And so I learned about myself the same way. When my son took me into my garage, and I said, "What's that?" And he said, "Oh, that's your scuba diving gear. You and I have been scuba diving for years. We just went to Cancun and scuba dived cenotes and all these places. You're a really good scuba diver. You've done over 200 dives." I was like, "Wow." So what's that? He said, "That's our backpacking gear. We've been to the high Sierras, 12,000 feet up. We went backpacking usually 2-3 times a year, you and I." I said, "What's that?" He said, "That's your tennis gear. You're a 4-0 tennis player. Very assertive, very, very competitive. You're quite good." And I was intimidated. I was so overwhelmed learning who am I. I didn't think I could be that guy. I was this broken mess that couldn't think clearly or feel clearly or move or make a sandwich. Literally, not only did I not know how to make a sandwich, but the first time when I tried, I was like cutting my hand. My son went, "Well, Dad, what are you doing?" And I didn't know, because I couldn't feel anything. I didn't know that I was doing it. I didn't have the dexterity and the skill to be able to drive a car, make a sandwich. I didn't even know I was cutting my hand open. Had no idea. So who am I is the part of the process where I'm not only just learning who I was, but who am I becoming? Overwhelming is an appropriate word, but it falls way short. Overwhelming is mild. As you can already perceive, trying to process your identity, having brain trauma, mechanic learning how to walk and talk, and not knowing who your girlfriend is that you've been with for 12 years, not knowing who your son is. When I came out of the coma, I didn't know who my son was. I didn't even know what a son was. They're looking at me with familiarity and they're talking to me, and I'm nodding my head, yes, like, sure, but I have no idea who they are. My son, who at the time was 27 now. So coming up in the next one, I'm going to summarize and go through some of these other landmark milestone events of this experience. The book, In My Time of Dying, the plan of it is I want to have every other chapter. The odd number chapters are going to be the clinical, physical recovery things that I did to overcome and become a medical miracle. The even number chapters are going to be the supernatural. I thought of this because some people don't want the mystical or supernatural. And I don't want those people to not be able to get help from what I can share with them about overcoming a brain trauma and death experience, starting over, middle-aged, neither do I want spiritual people and mystical people who only want supernatural stuff to be excluded because it's all a clinical book. So it's every other chapter. And I think we'll do the video the same way. We kind of covered both in this introduction. The next one, it's going to be maybe a bit of a hybrid, but after that, we're going to spend one workshop doing nothing but the supernatural, and the next one will be nothing but the clinical. So you can take it or leave it. By the way, when I say medical miracle, the chief of brain neurology at UCLA. Okay, let me say that again. The chief of brain neurology at UCLA, not just a brain neurology UCLA, no, the chief of brain neurology UCLA, heard about my case and called me when I was still barely able to talk and walk and asked me to come see him. And I said, sure, can you help me? And he said, I don't know, but I heard about your case. I'm looking at fMRI. Can you come see me? They'd sent a car because I could not drive. And I did not know how. I was 47, 48 years old, but I didn't know how to drive a car. And when I went to see him, he's interviewing me and he kept saying to me, when was your fMRI? When was your accident? When was your accident? And I said, why do you keep asking me that? I keep telling you, June 13th. And he says, because I'm looking at your fMRI right here in front of me, and you should not be able to sit up in front of me. You should be able to speak. I'm looking at your fMRI right here. Can we run some tests on you? Can we study you? I want to know what you're doing. They studied me for 3 days. All kinds of fMRIs and tests, and also exercises, skill things to see what I could do, what I couldn't do, and how long it took me to do things like put together a little puzzle, to go room to room and identify where a door was, and then I go back in the same room a moment later and see if I could remember any of those things. And so time went by, and I ended up calling him a few weeks later, and I said, so what'd you find out? And he said, you're officially a medical miracle. We have no idea what you're doing and how you're doing it. We want to know from you. What are you doing? And I was like, crap, man, I thought you could tell me. I thought you could help me. I don't want to help you. I want you to help me. I'm in trouble. So when I say medical miracle, it's quite a literal term in my case. The DAI, the Glasgow coma, there's like 3 elements. I can't think of the third one. I got a little bit of brain trauma, in case you didn't know. That I'm a 3-time medical miracle. And plus, the NDE circumstance experience is extraordinary. Again, every NDE experience is phenomenal and supernatural, but I mean this in the most respectful way. As I went to the conference and talked to and held presentations on dozens and dozens of NDEs and videos and movies and books, I've consumed material on that now. They're relatively, while each one is unique, there's relatively consistent features to them that don't apply to me. Consistent with my character, I died unusually, came back unusually. I got to go full on, I guess, because it just supernatural, the supernatural. Again, it's great, I guess, to be the phenomenon, but personally, no, thank you. It's not fun for yourself. It's inspiring and extraordinary for others, not so much for you. I try to share these experiences and these circumstances for you so that you can be inspired, so that you can dig deeper and look further beyond the material phenomena. Most of us do need some type of evidence, some data, some accumulation of circumstances where we can draw a conclusion to be assured that there is a spiritual phenomena or how it works. And here's the true benefit of that. I don't want to just provide evidence that the supernatural and the spiritual is real. I want to help people know how to use it. Same thing I do as a counselor, specialist behaviors and addictions. I specialize in all of them. Sleep, anxiety, depression, addictions, and I succeed because I don't just make people aware of how they work, but how to function, how to pass them. What's the point of knowledge if we can't use it? So one of the ongoing mottos that I have for Spiritual Triangle is knowledge is power. I'm not just here to entertain you. I hope you are entertained. I hope you enjoy and are inspired by some of these anecdotes and events. But I also hope that it becomes something you can use when you're in a tough time, when you're in a profound time, to get more out of it, to elevate your consciousness and yourself to be more than you are every moment. Carpe diem, screw that. Seize the day. Carpe noctis, seize the night. Carpe omnia, seize everything. Seize it all. Not just the day. That's very limited. Again, the irony is that I was already a carpe diem, carpe omnia person before my death experience. Most NDEers, they get this new lease on life after their death experience. They suddenly start to live. And again, initially I was like, well, that sucks. Because I already was. Like, I know why you had to do it, but why me? Why did I have to suffer? Again, it's twofold. As Leah was encouraging me, and I was so thick-headed that I wasn't seeing her point right away, which is common for me, that the purpose is to be able to illuminate, provide evidence for other people. But it's not just that. We do exist for others and for humanity. We do. And I firmly believe that. I don't care about me. I mean, I have my needs and my wants, but ultimately, in a big picture, philosophical way, me, what's me anyway? I don't really care about me. I care about what's right. And what's right is to manifest, convert, share these experiences that might expand someone's conscience, not just to save them from tragedy. That's helpful. But to also help them convert their tragedies into something that gives them spiritual enlightenment and illumination. Because that's all that matters. Not the material phenomena, but the spiritual one. I am not a human being having a spiritual experience. I'm a spiritual being having a human experience. We are spiritual beings having human experiences. Don't forget that you are a spiritual being having a human experience. You are a spiritual being. Think of that throughout your day. Let that inspire you, that there is a bigger picture unfolding all the time, and you're part of it. And you get to be part of it. If there is anything inspiring or extraordinary or motivating about my accounts to you, I hope you use that to be inspiring to others and to yourself. We'll do part 2 very soon. Excuse me. Thanks for coming by. Please visit the Spiritual Triangle website. Usually there's a little bit of promotion here about there's free readings there. I've been doing several of them lately. Full readings. There's a lot of services there, and there's always some free samples so that you can see if it's right for you. I provide counseling, guidance, training, readings, all the stuff that I came from the other side with, and the stuff that I've trained with all my life. spiritualtriangle.com. Please visit. Please subscribe and or like the video or channel. That's helpful. Again, I'll leave you with this, repeating that same thought. We are spiritual beings having a human experience. If you've been inspired, if you enjoy, if this moves you in any way, take that with you throughout the day. Inspire others. Feel the magic that's within you. Feel the magic that surrounds that we're all immersed in, the miracle of existence. Don't take it for granted. the little things and the big things, not just little things like the blade of grass and the sunlight, for sure, but acknowledge it and take those moments to realize how special and how honored you are to have the awareness of that. Not just to see it and have it, but to have the ability to be aware of it and to feel and have an opinion of it. That's what makes you human. Animals run on survival instincts. Humans get to process, feel, have opinions, interact with. So please be inspired and be inspiring. See you soon.